Originally, he was in Pasadena, and he was lucky when the President Roosevelt gave the WPA for all the workers. He happened to have the equipment. His father was in the construction business, so he got the equipment. He learned from his dad, and so he was very fortunate that during the war, he had the equipment to go ahead and hire all the people, the men, and they tore up Pasadena, Colorado Street, and redid it all, put the sidewalks in, put the basements in for all the buildings, May Company, and I think there, you know, all the buildings from way down at Lake, there's post office, the City Hall, all of the buildings.
We're talking 1920s?
Yes, 1920.
Mr. Griffith?
Griffith. But they got together and Griffith hired him to come down to Newport and dredge the bay so that we could have an island. So he had a good job. That was up in 1924. Now I came along in 1924, September 13th actually, which in a few months, couple of months, I'll be 100 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So he worked down here quite a while, and then Griffith Company owed him $600, and he offered him cash. And Ted says, what would I, no, he offered him the 2 lots at the end of the island. And he said, what would I do with 2 sand-filled lots? I have a baby coming along, and that was me. So that's how that started with Griffith Company. He did a lot of work in Pasadena.
So instead of the lots, he took money.
Right. He lived an exciting life. He was in many places. For Griffith, they went to Bodfish, and he redid the road up there, and of course Pasadena, and the aqueduct from Colorado into here.
Lido Isle's a great feat, but the aqueduct, I mean, what a feat that was.
Yeah, that was a big one. We had to move to a little town called Paris, and we lived there while he did the aqueduct. We went to school at Chemawa, in fact, the high school, my sister and I. We lived there, we stayed there that long while they were making the aqueduct.
I find it interesting that they build this, really the forerunner community to Newport Harbor, the Lido Isle, and neither one of them live there. You'd think they'd keep a lot for them, you know, why not? It's so beautiful, but...
Well, when my husband and I called and told him we bought a house on Lido, he said, on that sand-filled, sis, why'd you do that? He still felt that way. Isn't that funny?
It is funny.
But once it was on the waterfront, luckily, and so we told him he could stay there. We went on a trip to Europe, so he came down and stayed at the house, he and my mom and their dog, and they enjoyed going on the boat, going back and forth to dinner and all the amenities that were there. He changed his mind, finally.
particular?
Yes. He built the backyard, half of the yard in the back, with all fenced in, and then he had separate containers for each animal, and he had ducks, had pheasants, he had squirrels, he had pigeons, he had everything in there, and it taught us kids to take care of we had to feed them and clean their cages, and so he gave us good work habits, the way I feel. That's what you need a dad around for.
Now, what about the eagles?
The eagle. My brother, two brothers, and my dad went to the market across to town to shop, get the groceries, and on the way back, very close to the house, coming around the bend, there was a animal going back and forth like this with his wings. So he said that to the boys, "That's an eagle. Let's see what's the problem." So they got out of the car, and he had a bone stuck in his throat, so they were close to the cabin. The boys picked it up, held it while he drove up to the cabin. And this is a weird story, but when they moved from Pasadena, he had a bird aviary also for parakeets and all. Well, he had sold all the birds to move to Big Bear, and he hadn't put anything in it yet, so it was empty. So they had a cage to put this eagle in it. So he puts him on the workbench, cuts it out, takes the bone out, and sutures it up. He's pretty handy, by the way. And he sewed it up, put it in the cage, and then they started feeding it a little bit at a time, dead fish and whatever. And they nursed it back to health. I think it took about 3 months. And my mom helped a lot on that too. So they nursed it, and then they decided it's strong enough to get out on its own. So I was there, I can remember that one. We were at the top of the driveway, we were on a hill, and so we let it out, he let it out, and it flopped and flopped down to the driveway down below, and he sat there for a little while and flapped his wings a bit, and then pretty soon he flew off, and he circled again, and then he left. Well, there's an old wise tale that if you ever befriend an eagle, they always return. This eagle returned to that cabin, to that tree, every year. And people, there are articles all over the place. Even in Pasadena had it. The articles, I do have those articles, where the eagle kept coming back, and when he passed away, everybody said, well, who's going to tell the eagle? By that time, he was already gone.
When stayed with you when you got your moved into your place in Lido Isle, did he ever talk about that? Did Mr. Griffiths ever envision that Lido Isle would become, when they were building those first few homes?
No, they had such a hard time trying to sell them.
It's a depression.
Depression, and that's why I say my dad was there at the right time, at the right place. And we did go through the war, the Depression. We went through it very well because we had a maid. Her name was Verancia, and she was great. And we had her for a long time. We stayed in touch with her until she passed. Yes, we were very fortunate. We were able to go out to dinner at the Goodfellas Grill. And my mother said, now you make sure you have your good manners with you, because they even have tablecloths on the table. I always remember that.